This presentation will discuss the importance of providing goal-oriented practice and giving quality-specific feedback to students. You will see that including these two elements in your teaching will greatly increase the likelihood of enhanced learning for your students in your classroom. When designing a lesson, it's important to decide exactly what you want students to be able to do when they have completed it. Sometimes it may be beneficial to start with the end in mind and work backwards, instead of assigning work and trying to make it match your goal. Think of using a map in order to find directions to a new destination. In order to plan your journey, you need to know where you're going or where you want to end up. Finding or selecting the destination is the first thing you do. After that, you plan your journey from where you are currently located. Goal-oriented practice improves student learning by allowing students to self-monitor their progress and can even push students to strive for new goals on their own. By starting at the end and working backwards, the goal or destination of the lesson will always be clear to your students, and they'll always know what they're working towards. Clearly communicating your expectations of the students and the goal of the lesson has huge implications on the result of a lesson and what students will take away from it. How many times have you been assigned a task, and after directions were given you said to yourself or others, "Okay, now what are we supposed to do?" In these cases, it's likely that the person giving the directions had not explained the process, the goal, or the expectations very well. Students will also struggle to understand the teacher's expectations if they are not communicated clearly. Practice must be designed to progress students toward the goal of the teacher. In addition to being specific, there must also be frequent, numerous opportunities for students to practice and receive feedback. Consider the amount of time and focus that a professional athlete or musician dedicates toward improving through countless attempts at perfecting their craft. How is it possible that we expect students to get it without also having plenty of practice? A one-and-done approach rarely, if ever, produces enough of an opportunity for students to adequately learn a new skill or concept. Creating practice that is at the student's level is key to keeping him motivated. In order to prevent students from being overwhelmed by practice that is too difficult or bored from practice that is too easy, teachers must strive to individualize practice whenever and however possible. To many this can seem time-consuming, but it can actually be a time saver in the end and be more beneficial to students. Doing so is truly an example of working smarter, but it does require some extra time and effort to initiate. Practice is a very important component of learning, but it cannot act alone. In order for practice to accomplish a specific learning goal, there must be feedback given. If a student is given a task or skill to complete and he does not receive feedback, he will have no way of knowing whether he has learned or performed correctly according to a stated goal. Feedback cannot be generic. Saying "nice job" or "good" may make a student feel nice, but it does not tell them why something was done well. Likewise, saying "try again" or "close" does not tell the student what was done wrong. Feedback must be targeted and timely in order to be effective. It must be stated in a way that the student knows what he did correctly, or provide information about what they did incorrectly and offer guidance in how to improve. Additionally, students must receive feedback at a time when it can be used to reinforce their positive accomplishment or correct inadequacies of a performance that is lacking. Receiving feedback on an assignment from a past lesson is far less useful to a student than receiving it during a lesson or throughout a unit. Feedback that is given throughout a lesson or unit is called formative feedback. Formative feedback can help to prevent incorrect or inaccurate learning because students receive the guidance in a timely manner and thus do not continue to perform flawed practice. Additionally, formative feedback should direct future learning by giving students and teachers an accurate assessment of how well students are doing. If students are all making the same mistake, a teacher can stop and reteach that material that seems to be misunderstood. If there seems to be understanding among students, the teacher knows that and can move on. This type of feedback can also help to individualize practice so that it is at an appropriate level. Providing targeted feedback enables students to significantly outperform students given generic feedback. It has been established that feedback is crucial to student practice and learning. However, some feedback is good, but more is not necessarily better. Research indicates that excessive feedback can overwhelm students or distract them from the specific goal of their practice. Be sure that the feedback you give pertains to the goal of the lesson and that it is given in such a way that students can easily understand it and use it to improve their practice and learning. Here are strategies that are proven to be effective in helping teachers plan and implement practice and feedback for students. Let's look at each of them in more depth. Every teacher should know what information or skills their students have when they enter their class. Pre-testing students or speaking with teachers whom students have had in the past are two methods of determining prior knowledge. This information will become key to your planning of specific learning goals for the class and also help to individualize instruction and practice for those who need it. Specific goals must be established and emphasized throughout the year in order to keep students focused. Post goals in a variety of places, such as on their assignments, the syllabus, the teacher web page, and class bulletin boards, so that there's a constant reminder of learning expectations and outcomes for students. Over time, students are able to build and improve upon their knowledge and skill if they have multiple chances to practice. Giving students the chance to do so with smaller assignments that cover smaller amounts of material will help. Several small assignments coupled with specific feedback allow students to focus their attention on specific skills and enable the teacher to provide higher quality feedback on a more frequent basis. When teaching a new concept or skill, it is important to provide students with extra support. Much like when a child is learning to ride a bicycle, parents provide training wheels and usually stay close to the child as he's learning. As the child acquires more skill, the parent will eventually reduce the amount of help they give until finally the training wheels come off and the child can ride on their own. Similarly, in the classroom, teachers can decrease the amount of support they give individual students when they determine that the student has an adequate understanding of the knowledge or is competent in a skill. By showing students non-examples, teachers can spotlight errors or weaknesses from previous students' experiences. Providing visual non-examples like this one pictured would act to remind students never to use matches around gasoline. Non-examples help students to see differences in quality and appropriateness of work. Noticing that students are making similar errors on an assignment may indicate that the topic or idea was not understood for a variety of reasons. If you see patterns or errors like this, take time to analyze your teaching and provide feedback to students about what they missed and why they missed it. As you are checking for understanding and providing feedback, be sure to include positive feedback along with negative or critical feedback. It is best to begin with positive feedback in order to maintain the student's self-confidence and motivation, followed by critical feedback that identifies what areas are in need of improvement. Being sure to balance these two will allow students to be proud of their work while also understanding that there are areas that need improvement. Create numerous tasks that can be completed in a short amount of time and provide feedback appropriately on each of them. By providing frequent feedback, students will have more opportunities to improve their understanding and performance of knowledge and skills, and correct any misunderstandings or mistakes before they've become learned. Some of the feedback given can be done to the group, which will help lighten the workload on a teacher. As mentioned earlier, group feedback can be effective and efficient if the teacher believes that students all have the same need. Identifying the most common mistakes by the group and giving feedback about how to correct the mistake saves the teacher time. The teacher can utilize that time saved to provide individual feedback as needed. Feedback that comes from peers can often be the most useful to students. By incorporating rubrics, students can provide each other with accurate feedback and through the process also evaluate the quality of their own work. When set up and done correctly, peer feedback reduces the workload on the teacher and enables them to spend more time giving individual feedback to those in need. There are many skills and talents that go into making someone a great teacher. Learning how to provide adequate practice and feedback are two of the most important keys to being an efficient and effective teacher. By following these strategies, teachers will be well on their way to creating classrooms they desire for students and themselves.